Cafe Anyway. La 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 la.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
It's episode 2192, I'm Mike Matthews, over here at the Cafe Anyway on the show called
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Somewhere in Podcastro Valley. 2192. It's Mike. How are you? That's great. I like when it rains, but as long as it doesn't leak here at Cafe Anyway, that tends to tweak me. Does that make me mad? Tweak. Wait a minute.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
That is not a verb that one should use. You need to use verbs that are wholesome.
Mike's
like
Daily
gravy.
Podcast.
That's one of my favorite verbs.
Yeah!
Gravy. Everything else is just gravy. Is that right? Okay, so I finally finished, and this is my little, section of the show where I introduce myself. Perhaps you've never heard a show before that Mike Matthews has done, Mike's Daily Podcast show. Also, this is the part of the show where I tell you a little bit about the wonderful, what was it that I watched? Kath and Kim. Oh yeah, this is my TV review part of the show. So Kath and Kim, I watched that recently, and that show is from Australia. Today is Australia Day, by the way. So happy Australia Day to you. But Kath and Kim, it was huge in Australia. It's basically following the story of a mother and a daughter. It's on Netflix, in case you want to watch it for yourself. And it's a mother and a daughter, and they are trying to get through in this world, deal with love, deal with issues, men, women, the whole gambit, sports, Australia, and you learn a lot about Australia in this show. So we finished watching every episode.
And here's today's podcast picture.
That's on Netflix. And we finished watching the movie. They made two movies. One was like a made-for-TV movie, a Christmas-type show, a Christmas special, that also involved... Did that one involve the Da Vinci Code? Yes. For some reason, it was a Christmas Da Vinci Code episode. That's Australia for you. And then there was the episode. They did an actual movie that was released in Australia in the theaters in 2012. Apparently, it was number one that year, the number one movie. Aw, Basil. That's right, Basil. I don't understand the taste. I don't either understand why this movie was number one, Basil. The late, great Basil the Boxer. By the way, there's a podcast picture of him at MikesDailyPodcast.com, and I know when I post that picture on Instagram and all the social media places, people are going to say, oh, he looks so good, even though it says right next to him 3 years ago. No, Basil's no longer with us, but this was a great picture of him. But people are still going to go, oh, he still looks great. Ugh. Yes, because it's a photograph and it shows him from 3 years ago. Never mind. The podcast picture sometimes gets me a little upset. But you can see all the past podcast pictures. Every show has had one at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Also on Twitter and Facebook and all the other usual suspect type places. Instagram. So the movie that they made in the theaters, I think it was Kath and Kim Dorella. By the way, it was a show. It was turned into an American show with Molly Shannon and Selma Blair. And it was okay. But the Australian show was outrageous, the TV show. But when they made the movie, oh my, I don't know what happened. What happened? It was, oh. I mean, you could tell they threw a lot of money at it. There was beautiful sets. One thing that was different. The TV show has a shaky camera. It's like The Office type situation, or Modern Family, or the other one, Parks and Rec, where the camera is always shaky because it's like a film documentary style. Yet it's not a documentary. They're not like when they do voiceover. It's a suspension of disbelief because you're supposedly hearing the thoughts of the character, but it's not like an actual documentary style. At any rate, the movie was not. The movie did not have the shaky camera look. It was all beautiful, huge, cinematic shots. The camera held still, and they're telling the story of how Kath and Kim, the mother and daughter, Kath is the mom, and Kim is the spoiled brat of a daughter who says she's always 25, but she's obviously 50-something. And then they go to Italy somewhere, and they find a little kingdom, a little serfdom there, and there's a king who's a despot, but he's in love with Kath, and anyway, then Cafe Anyway, it has some... It was not that good. It's goofy, but I could see why Australia made it number one, because it's very Australia. It's sort of like, hey, this is Australia doing a Hollywood movie. Look, we can take on Hollywood. We can do better than Hollywood. We're better. We make better gravy than Hollywood. I don't know why they would say that. Maybe because I mentioned gravy earlier in the podcast, saying that it was a verb, whence it is not. At any rate, I was let down. My lovely lady friend and I were let down by Kath and Kim Dorella, that movie. But there you go. That is the world of Kath and Kim. Okay, thank you for listening to this podcast today, and see the wonderful podcast picture of Basil the Boxer reclining on his favorite couch. I didn't let him on any furniture. In fact, he was such a good dog, he would not get on any furniture. The only furniture he wanted to get on was this couch. And because he was so good with all the rest of the other furniture, I said, okay, you can have the couch. Go for it. And so his entire life he enjoyed laying down on that couch, which is at Cafe Anyway now. As we go outside of Cafe Anyway, by the way, Cafe Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, Tesla CEO Elon Musk is the richest person on the planet, but he's apparently still happy to shop on handmade craft site Etsy. Etsy's been around a while. I remember when I first heard about Etsy. I thought, what a great idea. It won't last. Oh, but it has. People love Etsy. I think I've got some stuff at home here. I mean, not here. At home. Over there. Outside of Cafe Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley. That came from Etsy. Clever, creative things. That has made the shares for Etsy soar nearly 10%. And that was actually earlier today. I kind of love Etsy, Musk tweeted. Musky. If he bought Etsy, he'd call it Musky. Adding in a follow-up tweet that he bought a wool Marvin the Martian helmet. Yes, that's that alien from the Bugs Bunny cartoons. For his dog. Fitting, as Musk, of course, wants to one day go to Mars with his company SpaceX. And the stock did pull back a little bit. But given there was no other company news from Etsy Tuesday morning, it seems safe to say that Musk's tweet was the primary catalyst for the stock's pre-market surge, which is interesting. It's also yet another example of the increasingly short-term nature of the stock market. One where algorithms can drive prices and individual investors using services like Robinhood are eager to make a quick buck. Recently, shares of companies that many professional investors are shorting because they expect the stocks to go down since the companies are struggling or overvalued are instead surging thanks to support from traders on popular Reddit board. On a popular Reddit board, GameStop, BlackBerry, Bed Bath & Beyond, Macy's, and AMC are just a few examples. Yeah, you would think GameStop. Can't they get that stuff online? Why do they need a brick-and-mortar GameStop shop? And BlackBerry, isn't that... I mean, Kath and Kim, that show was done primarily from 2002 to 2007, and in it they're talking about the BlackBerry like it's the most wonderful invention, and that it will surpass the iPhone and Samsung, when the BlackBerry is not doing that. Bed Bath & Beyond, I can't remember the last time I went into a Bed Bath & Beyond. Oh, I do remember. It was 15 years ago. And I hate going in those places. It's so overpriced. Brick and mortar, Macy's brick and mortar, AMC. Yeah, who's going to see movies these days? I talked to my mom, and she was telling me, and she lives in Florida, that there is a movie theater, Cinematique, that she likes to go to because they show these cultural movies, and then they allow you to have dinner while you're watching this movie. And she said the last movie she saw there was so awful. She mentioned that it had lesbians in it and that she was not prepared. They did not tell that to her before she went in. So she was a wee bit shocked when she watched the lesbians, because Mom wasn't, properly prepared, advised. So she may not be going to Cinematique for that reason, and probably because of the coronavirus mainly. Pepsi and Beyond Meat are creating a joint venture to develop snacks and drinks made from plant-based proteins. The companies didn't reveal what kind of products they will make, saying they're still in development. PepsiCo and Beyond Meat. So you got Pepsi making all those chips and stuff, and they've also got the Pizza Hut and KFC and Matador beef jerky. Beyond Meat's burgers, sausages, and chicken, which are made from pea protein. Yes, the protein from pea. That would be PEA, the little green things that come out of the little pods. Podcasts. See how it all comes back around. They are sold worldwide, including at Starbucks in China and Pizza Hut in the U.S. So there we go. It's a shot in the arm for El Segundo, California-based Beyond Meat, which has been struggling to convince investors of its growth opportunities as competition increased. By the way, my mother, who I guess has an aversion to lesbians, I don't know. That's what it seems like, doesn't it? That's Mom. But she, when she was much younger and I was much younger, we were pretty active on the weekends, and we would roller skate. You know that at the beginning of Three's Company with the late great John River, Jim. Why did I just forget his name? I have a quick little thing where I spoke to him for about a minute. He walked into a studio I was in. I was live on the air on a country station, and he walked in. And we talked a little bit about Sling Blade, because he was in that movie. And then he left. And I think that's on the website. I have it somewhere if you go into the interview section. So, you remember the beginning of it, where he's riding on the bike and he falls over for Three's Company? That was shot in Playa del Rey. And my mom and I used to bicycle on that route. Used to bicycle on that. John Ritter. Gosh, why I couldn't think of him. I don't know why. So we used to bicycle on that exact bicycle path. And if you go on that bicycle path, and we'd roller skate on it sometimes. We had our dog back then, Ollie Mop. And we also had a dog named Toy Toy, because we can't name any dog just some normal name, like Steve or Bob. And we were riding along. So you take the bike path. That bike path is wonderful, by the way. You can go from Playa del Rey to Marina del Rey, down to Venice, Santa Monica, all the beautiful spots in Southern California along the beach. Interesting, very Southern California-esque places. Then, if you go the opposite direction, if you go south on Playa del Rey, you'll end up eventually in El Segundo, where there's a huge, stinky refinery. And apparently that's where Beyond Meat is located, which is interesting to me. If you keep going, by the way, you end up at Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach and Hermosa Beach. That's right. And eventually you'll end up in Pacific Palisades, but we never went that far. Well, I guess I was going to cover some other stuff on today's show, but I got a little out of hand, as what will happen on Mike's Daily Podcast, because it is sort of a free-form type thing. By the way, I find it very interesting that now that a lot of conservative talk show hosts have decided to not talk about the whole election conspiracy theories, the Democrats cheated, the Democrats had some massive conspiracy to win the election, so they just made sure Trump lost, but all these Republicans win in the exact same places where Trump lost, the Republicans win. All these senators and representatives. So how that happened, and governors and whatnot. But since they're moving away from that and just saying basically that the Democrats won because now they're saying the media is involved. All media apparently is pro-Biden, pro-Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, pro-Democrat. So that's the reason they blame the media, which goes back to what Rush Limbaugh always says, and the drive-by media and all that. So I like that because that means things have gone back to normal. That is the normal conspiracy theory that we have heard. So, and in fact, one conservative talk show host has come up with a special little series that he's doing on his show called Rebuilding the Right. So you see, that assumes that something has fallen apart with the right, and they got to get right with the right and rebuild it. It is similar to when Mitt Romney lost in 2012, and they did what was it called? The autopsy on the election of 2012. What was it that went wrong? Why did Mitt Romney lose? And that sounds a little bit like that, but whatever. That's a little piece of what's happening in your country called America. Rebuilding the right. And I hope you're rebuilding yourself. Every day you should think about ways to make yourself better. Do you know what I came up with today? What I need to do to make myself better? I need to podcast more. I need to get on this here microphone. Mike needs to get on the mic and share with you interesting little observations. Because that makes me feel better. Maybe it makes me feel better. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. You can tell me. 336MM Daily. 3 + 3 = 6. MM is Mike Matthews. Daily is in what this podcast shall try to be moving forward. Oh, don't you love the expression moving forward? I had to use that in a company email today. Moving forward, I will ... And then the rest of the sentence had something to do with trying to improve the communication. That's one place every company needs help in. Communication. It doesn't matter what you do in your company, what you make, what you sell, what goods or services you provide, there's always going to be a communication lapse. It happens in radio. And radio, I mean, that's what we do is communicate. So it's just it's part of human nature. We have an issue where we have a failure to communicate. And that is my Cool Hand Luke reference. Look who's here. Hi, Mike. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How's you doing? It's a Disgruntled Fiddle Player tell you what. What? There was no conspiracy. The entire election was a sham, and Trump should be our president. In fact, he is our president. That's my president, and not the other guy. All right, look who else is here. Hello, Mike. I make the least root beer handsome right now. Thank you. Oh, this root beer is so good. It's got like a little bit of... Did you put mango in this?
Yeah, I love mango.
Mango. What a wonderful fruit mango is, isn't it? Just saying the word mango. On that note, next show it'll be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. It's got lots of vitamins and stuff in it. It's good for you. And you can enjoy the podcast picture at MikesDailyPodcast.com with more on that. Here's A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!